You want to get rich. Everybody wants to get rich and make a ton of money. But if you don't do what I'm going to cover in this video, you will never get rich and you have absolutely no chance of making a ton of money outside of winning the lottery. I'm going to go over a bunch of different traits that I have learned from people who are a lot more successful than me, and things that I've read in personal development books, and also things that I've learned through personal experience that actually work. So I'm not just going to be spitting off some facts that I read on Google or something. This is stuff that I've actually learned, and I've either personally seen people apply it and have success, or personally applied it and have success myself. So the number one thing that you have to do is cultivate a success wealth mindset, because most people have a middle class mindset. Most of us are taught from an early age that we're going to go to college, make a certain amount of money, or get into a trade and we'll make a certain amount of money, imprisoned by that. We're in the cut coupons type of middle class mindset. That can be a hard thing to break just because we've been molded into that for so long. When I grew up, I thought doctors made a lot of money. Doctors don't make a lot of money. A lot of it, I think, comes from our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents wanting to take the safe route, maybe thinking a business or some sort of investments were risky, and it was much safer to just go to college and get a degree and just get some random job or whatever. But what I'm going to tell you is that that is not the safest way, because even those people have financial issues, and even those people, lawyers, doctors, stuff like that, most of them aren't able to live out their life exactly as they want it and fulfill their goals and their dreams and their desires. The first thing you need to do is break that mentality and create a wealth mindset for yourself. This was tough for me. 2016, I was in jail. I had no money to my name. My credit score was 400. I was in that crazy poverty mindset, and I trained myself over time to develop a wealth mindset. And it doesn't happen right away, guys. It doesn't happen overnight. What actually got me understanding what a wealth mindset was one of my friends that I sold cars with when I first got out of rehab. We used to get bonuses every month at the dealership, and I would take my bonus and put it in my savings account and just let it grow. He would get a bonus and he would go spend the entire thing on like a watch or like something like that, right? Some sort of like vanity piece. And I'm like, bro, how do you do it? And he's like, well, I don't mind spending a lot of money on something that I like. And right there, it clicked. I was like, man, this is why this guy can make so much money, because he knows he can just go get it back. It just totally changed my perspective. From that moment on, I started to think bigger. I realized, that's why he's able to make so much money on his sales and hold so much profit, because he doesn't think it's a big deal if people spend a lot of money on things that they like, because he doesn't think in terms of shortages. He doesn't think that there's only a certain amount of money out there, and then, some people got a bunch and then everybody else is going to have a little bit. Like, you can go get your piece too. What I really did is I created visions and movies in my mind. It eventually just imprinted on my subconscious so that I thought bigger. And I thought of myself like making big business deals, writing checks for $1 million for something for my business, buying a property for $5 million in cash. Like, I would literally think of me bringing like briefcases of cash in to buy a property, just playing those videos in my mind. Also too, I would house shop on Zillow, right? Like fantasy shop. You guys got to do this. You got to go on Zillow, find your dream homes, see what they cost or whatever, and just look at them, and then play movies to yourself every day of yourself waking up in these houses, what it would look like, what it would be like, and just thinking bigger. Because when you think bigger like that, it causes you to take different actions. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and me, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. If those guys can do it, like, what makes them any different from me? They just took different actions in that time. And to take the right actions, you have to cultivate a wealth mindset. This is work that you're going to have to do every single day. You can't save your way to success. So like, if someone's scared to spend $100,000 on something, how are they ever going to make $1 million? Don't spend the money stupidly. I'm not saying that. So don't go buy you don't have to go buy like a fancy car or like a crazy belt or something like that. You can spend a lot of money on your business though. But to do that, that's an investment perspective, right? To do that, you have to cultivate that wealth mindset for yourself. You cannot create a life that your identity does not match with. If you think you are broke, not worthy, and can't do it, then guess what? You're gonna be broke, not worthy, and can't do it. It's like taking one step back to take 10 steps forward. This stuff is super important to do, to reprogram those limiting beliefs that we all have in ourselves that tell us you're not good enough, you can't do this, you'll never be able to be successful, or whatever those messages can be. If you picture something going on in your brain doesn't always know the difference between like imagination and something that you're actually doing. So you can actually practice and rehearse these things in your head so you can become successful before it even gets there. The next thing that's super important that I've seen a lot of highly successful people do, build and refine small but powerful habits. Getting rich and building wealth, it's not about like some massive action that you take once. It's about a ton of little actions that compound over time into something great. It's like to buy that house. Okay, cool. Well, it's going to take $15 million to buy the house that you want, maybe, or the house I want. But there's a lot of steps that I have to break down to get there beforehand. Say, okay, what do I have to do today, this week, this month, the next 90 days to work on making these things possible? And I write down the list. And I take the things that only I am good at or that I can't assign to someone else. Like making YouTube videos, right? Like, okay, I can't have someone else make the video, film the content. I can have someone else edit it. I can't have someone else film it. So I write down all the steps I'm going to do and I take the highest priority ones and I execute on those. And also another thing that I like to do, habit stacking. I like to hit 8,000 steps a day, but I also want to read and work on my personal development, and I have other business calls to make and things like that. So I do two things at once and I'm able to get my steps in while I'm listening to an audiobook. I go to the gym and I listen to an audiobook. I don't listen to music when I'm doing that. I don't listen to music when I drive around. I'm learning. So I can compress that time, take care of two things at once, and it just compounds over time of what you can do. Those little things, an hour or two here or there every day, really builds up over the course of a year. You want to make sure you track your progress as well and track your wins. Statistics are really good to record for yourself because you'll be able to see, like, numbers don't lie. Feelings do. Feelings can lie to us, but the numbers of, hey, how many phone calls did we make that day? How many people did we talk to? How many books did we read last month? Those things don't lie. So if you record those things and celebrate those little wins to yourself, it's huge. I do it every single day that I work out. I'll give you an example, like my workouts. So when I go to the gym, I write down everything I do and I compare it with the week before. And I always try to beat last week's workout, whether my form is more strict or I put more weight or more repetitions. In business, it's sales based. Did we make more sales last month? Are we going to make more sales this month? And as I have little wins, you want to celebrate those things because it'll reaffirm to your success mechanism and your success mindset that you are worthy of success. Now, with these things I'm talking about though, it's very important to be patient and persistent. It's not like you're just going to start doing these things and you'll get rich the next day. It takes years. It's not going to happen overnight because some of them you're going to execute and you're not going to be good at it the first time around. You're going to have to do it a couple times to improve. Get ready for the long haul, and having that wealth mindset helps you understand that investing in yourself is just like investing in the stock market. It's compounding interest. Little investments, little steps over time builds up into something huge long term. It's little actions over time that result in something big. The next thing that I've found highly successful individuals do, and that has helped me be successful, prioritizing what I spend my time on. This is something I struggle with every single day. It's so easy to get bogged down in the busyness of the day, but I'm trying right now to think of myself as a billionaire. So what would a billionaire do? What would billionaire Justin do right now? That is film this video, because no one else can replace billionaire Justin in filming a video. Can he have someone edit it? Yes. Can billionaire Justin have someone answer his emails? Yes. There's gonna be some things that you just have to sacrifice for the longer term to make things happen. I had between this video, filming this video, or having a meeting with someone about working with me. And you know what? Maybe that person won't end up working with me because I didn't take the time to talk with them and I filmed this video. But this video is more important because this one video could potentially help 100 other people be successful in their business. Whereas that meeting with him, I could only help one person be successful. So sometimes the best action to take is the action that helps the greatest amount of people. And you answering one email is not as productive as some of the other things we just talked about. Look for ways to sell your products in a one-to-many setting. So if you're out there and you're just selling face-to-face one individual product, sometimes you have to do that with what you sell in your business. Totally get it. If you want a commercial roofing company, you're not going to have 100 people who need a commercial roof replaced in a room that you're going to pitch them on. But if you have products that appeal a little bit more to the masses, try to figure out ways to get involved in one-to-many selling. I just started another company a year ago, and I'm totally cool with going back to cold calling people to build this business back up. Like, I love that shit. That's me. Like, I am that guy who will bang out calls and try to sell you on something you have absolutely no idea what it is. But I'm trying to figure out ways of one-to-many selling. How can I master my time? And sometimes when you have these problems, guys, you just got to commit them to the back of your mind. Like, I sat there for months trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And then it was like, boom, it came to me. I have a lot of experience in the space that this product is developed in, that this company is in. And this is like a symbiotic company with my other company. So they say the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. Well, it's usually not 7 completely different sources of income. They all kind of work off each other. It's It's like you have one business and then you started another business that complements it, and then another business that complements that one, and that complements that one. But I realized like, hey, I can give away all this information I've learned in the business for the last 5 years in a presentation. And then at the end of the presentation, pitch people that they can continue working with me. We'll have weekly calls as long as they utilize my product to help them grow. That's a way that I can master my time. So instead of banging out a million cold calls, I can do that. Also, strategic partnerships, right? You can use people and talk to people who know other people so that you can get in certain networks to help you with your sales. It's important to write down everything that you need to do to get your business launched or to make more money, for me anyway. Like this is just, I can't imagine how anybody else could do it, but I create a list and I write it down of exactly what needs to be done. And as they get done, I cross it off. Now I know there's some guys out there who are like, oh, don't do the list, cross it off thing. If they're not doing it, someone else is. And they did it at one point. So maybe they're worth like $100 million. They're like, oh, I don't do that list cross off thing. Yeah, because you pay someone else to do it, dude. But that's not realistic for most people. When you have everything written down, it frees up some space in your mind. It frees up some mental bandwidth because you're not worried about, oh, did I forget something? Am I not remembering something? Because it's right there on the list. I know that on this piece of paper, I have everything that I need for us to get rocking and rolling and to get things set up and promoted. Staying focused on the moment is super important too. Put your phone down. Commit to focusing on what you need to accomplish, because if you don't, then there's a chance that it won't get done right. I heard something the other day. He said there's no such thing as multitasking, just multi-failing. And that totally resonated with me, because if I'm trying to do multiple things at once, I'm not going to do anything to 100% potential. So we just want to do one thing at a time. It's like, imagine if I was trying to film this video and answer text messages from someone and emails and everything else. Put that stuff out of the way, focus on one thing. And what can help with that? Sleep and nutrition are very, very important. I'm a big proponent of not eating a ton of carbohydrates unless it's around your mornings or your workouts. And if you don't work out in the morning, then don't eat a ton of carbs. Other than that, proteins and fats will help you stay focused and energized. And sleep, I don't know. Some people are like, oh, I only need 4 hours of sleep a night. That's not me. And I'm totally okay with admitting that. It's hard for me to breathe at night when I'm sleeping because I have to breathe out of my mouth. If my nose gets even a little clogged, I wear one of those strips, but sleep's very important to me. If I don't get a lot of sleep, I'm not going to have the same energy and focus going into the next day. The next thing I'm going to get into here is a desire to strengthen their relationships and their communication skills. One very, very easy practice that can actually drastically help you in your sales, in your relationships, is active listening. So just try to focus completely on what someone is telling you. Kind of like what I said before, if you're trying to do multiple things at once, you can't give it your full focus. And that does not go well with clients and just building relationships in general. Just focus. And active listening can be repeating back what someone says to you and actually taking interest in the things they say from a human perspective. I hear salespeople all the time. They listen to their prospects and they only take it from like, hey, how can this serve me? And not, how can I be of service to this person? Whenever I'm on sales calls, if someone tells me something about what they like to do for fun randomly, right? Say a hobby. I don't look at that as something I can use as like a weapon in my sales. I look at it as, hey, this person is opening up and trying to express to me who they are and let me into their life. It's important for active listening and repeat back what people say to you to show that you actually acknowledge it. And if you don't understand what people tell you, then just ask them to clarify. Sometimes people want to just talk, and your time might be limited. If I interview people, I know some people just want to talk about themselves like for like a year. So I'm like, hey, I got 15 minutes and then I have to move on to something else. And that way it's totally okay if after that 15 minutes, hey, I really appreciate our conversation. We're going to have to pick this up at some other time. I have to move on to something else. An important part of making a lot of money is being able to lead people in the right way and inspire people. And basically, leadership is just influence. Now, an amazing book on this is this 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. And no, I am not paid to support any of these books, but this book taught me about how I can go from being a positional leader, which is a boss, to being a permission level leader and a production level leader, and so on, to where people will do things just because you're their boss, to go from there to the level where people will do things because they want to and they're encouraged to. One way to get people to like you and show that you like them is validating them. I found in my sales team, I have people that'll work harder to get a shout out in our newsletter, be on the top of their leaderboard or have their picture or their face there, and they do bust their ass. They work super hard and I'm super proud of all the people I have on my team. But some of them, it's funny seeing what inspires some people over others. And that's really important, is finding out what makes some people tick. I really like seeing other people win, helping them accomplish their goals. That's what gets me going. Like, I've never gotten a paycheck and was like, oh my God, that amount of money. I maybe because I just haven't gotten a big enough check yet. Some other people, it's just the recognition. So find out what works. It doesn't hurt to send someone a message appreciating them and saying, hey, I recognize you do this. And be specific too. Don't just be like, I appreciate you. Think of something that you actually appreciate them for. And if you don't appreciate them for anything, then either you got the wrong people on your team or you got a problem. So part of strengthening your communication skills is just validating people. So I want you right now to think of someone who you can reach out to and thank them or encourage them to have a good year. The last thing I want to cover for strengthening relationships and communication is understanding that a lot of times there's misunderstanding versus misconduct. Say someone doesn't show up for the day. Before I assume misconduct, I'm going to assume that there's misunderstanding. There's either something I don't understand about what's going on with their situation, or there's something that they don't understand about the expectations that I laid out for them when they have to be to work, what they have to do, what their targets are, stuff like that. Try to assume, if you get frustrated at someone, try to take responsibility for it and say, hey, is there something that I'm not understanding about this situation? So for instance, the other day, one of my assistants, she sent out text messages to the wrong group of people. It really threw stuff off for another one of my employees. It was really frustrating. It's not the first time it happened. It's like the second or third. So I told her, I wanted to be like, hey, you're fired, but I didn't. I was a little more stern with her this time, but I also had to check and see hey, what instructions was she given? What systems she operating on? Something that I could have done to improve that situation. So you can have candid conversations with people too. It's very important in your communication skills and your communication with people that you're working with that you set expectations up front and even put them in writing. Contracts are very, very important. It lays everything out in writing and you two can have an agreement. That way there's expectations set. And if they don't hit those expectations, then it's like, hey, you committed to this. Help me understand what happened between then and now, of why you said you could do it here, but why you can't do it here. And even if it's not a contract, even if it's like, yes, I'm committing to this, like a you got my word, man type of thing, it's still important. So if you go back and talk to someone to reprimand them, it's not like they're guessing. It was right there. It's exactly right there. That's why contracts are made, so that people are like, hey, this was the agreement. There's no confusion. This is exactly what we agreed to. So it's really, really important to do that. Set the stage ahead of time so that if any of those tough, candid conversations come up, be able to address them without sounding like a jerk. And lastly, I was almost done with this part, but I'm not. So I found that rich people and successful people invest in their network. You ever wonder why rich people are at all those rich people conventions and conferences? Because that's where they are. It's not like they're there because they're rich. They got rich because they're there. You have to be willing to invest time and money to meet people who are in positions above you. You got to find out what got them there. And the best way to do that is to pay to be around them, pay to get to know them, pay for a consultation, give someone money for their time. I guarantee that if you spent $5,000 for an hour of a 100 millionaires' time, that's way more than you'd make off of any crypto or whatever investments out there. Investment, that's the perfect segue into our next characteristic, developing financial literacy and continually learning about money. First financial lesson that I think everybody needs to learn is to pay yourself first. Now, this can be really tough. If you don't have enough income, it's hard to pay yourself first, even if it's a very small amount. You make money and then you pay your bill. You pay Netflix, you pay Disney Plus, you pay the cable, you pay the electric, you pay your internet. The only way to guarantee